had also been 4 years since I was last at the spaceport that sprang out of the lunar surface. It was still bustling with activity, and the faces you saw coming and going were also the same. I was staying at the meeting point near the departure gates. I probably looked like a guy so unused to interstellar trips that the prospect of them still made him anxious. But all I had was a bag of books and a computer full of data on various companies, so maybe no one saw me as a traveler. It was because Risa said that I could buy clothes on the way, and that it was better to travel as lightly as possible. And I stood in front of the gate for ordinary clients, which was quite unusual for a big player in the world of finance. Most people, when they got even a little famous, always used the first-class gate. So, give my best regards to Eleanor. Not to Hagana. Risa smiled wryly at my reply and added, and to Hagana. It's so big, I'm not sure I'll even find her. As soon as I said that, she patted me on the back. I launched into a coughing fit, then looked back at Risa, at which point she stuck her thumb firmly in my back. All I could do was shrug and laugh. Just stop overthinking it and go. It might be hard to believe, but you could actually meet a lot of people when you traveled around a large place like Earth. Huh. Ask, and it will be given to you. Life is not completely random, you know. No matter how large the place, people with similar motives will follow the same path. I slowly digested Risa's words and nodded as if swallowing them. If you want to cheer me up, you should try to make it a little easier to understand. The foundation of earning respect is saying things in a roundabout way. You black-hearted sister. That's precisely why I repent every day before God. I never seem to win arguments with Risa. I laughed and looked at the display indicating the departure times. I still have some time, but I will go to the gate now. It's my first time, so I'm a little worried. You deal with unbelievable amounts of money, but you're so gutless here. It's a question of habit. See you then. After saying this, Risa gave me a tight hug. She didn't consider it an embarrassing thing to do in public, and not just because others were doing the same around us. Risa was never much affected by appearances. She had the courage to stay focused on what was important, never looking away. So if she did something, it was the right thing to do. I let her hug me like this for a while, but when we finally separated, Risa looked surprised. You could have been maybe a bit less clingy. If a dog likes you, does it get embarrassed when you pet it? Now I'm the one getting embarrassed. I was laughing when I spoke, but Risa sounded a bit disappointed. Bye. See you. She waved as she said it, just like when she'd see me off from the church. Just as I was wondering how long she'd keep it up, she suddenly turned on her heel and laughed. Risa will always be Risa, after all. I walked through the gate, feeling a bit relieved. The other side on the thin glass was already space. Since it was nighttime on the lunar surface, at least in the astronomical sense, the sky was already dark. I knew logically that day and night were just projections on the dome of the lunar surface, but I still had trouble processing the change. It felt odd. And in the distance, I could see Earth shining brightest. It didn't seem that big from here, but the difference in size was immeasurable compared to the lunar surface. Seeing the mother planet, which literally gave birth to the lunar surface, I straightened my back a little. Billions of people, a number I could not even fathom, lived there, and its history spanned over 4 billion years. As long as people act according to their will, similar people will follow the same path. Those were Risa's words. You can also say the same about the investment world. However, I couldn't help but feel something darker lurking in her words of encouragement. Because Hagana and I went our separate ways 8 years ago, and she's not attempted to contact me even once since then. She was still a runaway minor during those first few years, so of course she couldn't contact me. However, it had been 8 years since then. She could call if she wanted to at the very least, and she would have heard my name in passing if she followed the events on the lunar surface at all. So her only possible reasons for not contacting me were reasons I didn't want to consider. Maybe Hagana didn't want to see me because she held a grudge against me. Maybe she outright hated me. Risa would never say that, but that was one of the reasons I never went looking for her on Earth. Of course, even if Hagana did hold a grudge or hate me, I wanted to at least see her once and apologize. That was just what I wanted, though. She might not have felt the same. What was the right thing to do? I did not know the answer to that question. Faced with such pessimistic prospects, all I knew for a fact was that thinking of Hagana transported me back to a time 8 years in the past. I remember the time we spent together, immersing ourselves in stock trading, advancing towards our dreams. Those brief moments on the bed when we, who didn't know much about anything, could share our feelings wrapped in the immaculate sheets of ignorance. I still think, even today, that all the secrets of the world were there in our hands. But it was the same right hand that knocked it all away. I stared at my right hand, opening and closing it. 4 years ago, when I thought about Hagana, my right hand would go stiff and shake awkwardly. But, thanks to Eleanor, I once again gained the strength to extend it toward what I wanted. And now my right hand shook the hands of many people every day as I assessed potential investments. It was full of strength, ready to catch my dreams. So, just like in the old Earth movies, I imagined myself taking Hagana by the hand, even though she hated me, and bringing her back to the moon by force. Of course, just as Marco said, I was not shameless enough to do that. I chuckled lightly and heaved a sigh of consternation. But I'm a bit early. As it was my first trip, I was nervous and went through the gate early. However, I still had a lot of time before boarding, and the departure was another 30 minutes after that. I decided to go to a coffee shop and check my email. Marco had tried to get in touch. So I'm trying to read these signs. Mark, McCartney, Stella, and Chloe. Just wondering if there might be a reference to something in there, but I'm not really seeing anything at the moment. And yes, oh, they gave me a better view. And yes, I know I get distracted by the backgrounds a bit. It's just if someone put the time in making these, they're actually worth looking at, you know? So I went to the area with the food court, duty-free, and luggage shops. Since people traveled from the moon to Earth here, there were anti-gravity devices available. There were even leg supporters which used pressure to force blood circulation or to prevent it from concentrating too much in the legs. As I was searching for a coffee shop with internet access, I stumbled upon a strange booth. At first I thought it was selling travel insurance, but I was wrong. It was extremely strange to see such a thing in a place like this. No, the word strange wasn't even strong enough. Frankly, I rubbed my eyes thinking I was mistaken. Are you kidding me? I unconsciously marked those words because before me was a small agency, with just a crew table and a few chairs arranged in a small space between two other shops. Male and female receptionists said they were in suits and they had 2 groups of clients. Over their heads was a cheap-looking signboard. It said, "Done before you leave for Earth. All we need are your passport and ticket. When you get back, you'll be rich. Don't miss this opportunity." It was a branch of New Age development, the company led by Dan, that guy with hair on the back of his hands. Unbelievably, they were giving mortgage loans even here. They even had clients. I thought it was a bad joke, but people kept stopping to look at the electronic signboard until one. People kept stopping to look at the electronic signboard to one side as it displayed real estate market prices in plain sight. This preposition isn't necessary, I think. So yeah, I was reading some stuff about how people are complaining about how some of the things in the game are awkwardly worded, and after reading that, these are sticking out a lot more to me now. If the real estate market was overheating, you might call this the boiling point. But they were mortgage loans after all, so the sums must have been quite important. Did they really choose properties and conduct loans here? How did they audit the clients? And how did they verify the properties? As I was staring at them looking perplexed, my gaze met that of an idle receptionist. The receptionist gave me a bright smile and pointed at the chairs. I certainly could have left, but I hesitantly went in their direction. My curiosity was too strong. I knew about the overheating of the real estate market prices, and I also knew that if ABS or CDO were selling like hotcakes, that people were surely buying loans and service capital for such investments like they were a goose laying golden eggs. It meant that the people at the front line, those who were really creating the loans, were naturally desperate. But although I did invite myself to companies like Dan's, I never went to the actual places where they were making the loans. I never thought you'd see those places sitting out in plain sight like this. It was clearly abnormal. Remember Sasha's words. Flawless ways to get rich really did exist. However, there were always those who overdid it. Are you off to Earth? Those words from the pleasant receptionist brought me back to reality. Oh yeah. Is it your first trip? Maybe I was thinking about all this because the trip was making me nervous. I'm mobile and answer using the time to collect my thoughts. I don't have much time before my flight to Earth leaves. Is it the next flight? You're fine if so. Her bright smile didn't give the impression that she was in any sort of hurry. I only have 30 minutes. Yes, of course, fast, polite, and active loans. This is our company's motto. If Marco would have been with me, he would have frowned so hard it would have distorted his forehead. But I was getting sharper and sharper. My restless attitude was losing its earnestness and becoming an act. I then cleared my throat a few times. I've heard you can get a loan even if you don't have that much money. Yes. May I ask your yearly income? The receptionist asked this while opening a routine checklist on her computer. Then I remembered Dan's words and gave her a blatant lie. To be honest, I came here from Earth last year, but things didn't go well, so I decided to go back temporarily. I see. And what do you do for a living? I shook my head. I was prepared to say I had a job on Earth if she turned me down. Do you have other assets? She didn't turn me down. I started getting nervous and replied, well, this too, with this trip to Earth. I was sure I'd overdone it this time, but the young receptionist, still with an innocent air, seemed unfazed. I'll prepare a few plans for you regardless. Do you have any particular property in mind? Then she gave me a little smile. A simple-minded earthling who had wanted to buy a home even though he had no money and job. I thought my act was going rather well, but this was all a bit unsettling. I hadn't thought it would actually go this well, so I hadn't thought this far ahead. The first thing that came to mind was the area where we had built houses with the Housing Aid Project. Well, I used to work in the Second Outer District, so around there. I see. The place is being actively redeveloped. So, what do you think about this layout? She said this, tapped on her computer a bit and turned it toward me. The location was not that convenient, but it was a 4-room apartment with living, dining, and kitchen for 1,180,000 rubles. I thought it was a joke. Not in the sense of price per square foot. For the setup I described to her, 1,180,000 rubles is way out of proportion. And yes, I'm trying to stress this number for you because this is setting off all sorts of red flags. Not just for the game, because of how the actual mortgage crisis in the US actually went. In case you're wondering, this is actually accurate. As horrifying as this may sound, it is accurate. Maybe she said it because she could see through my lies. Maybe that was her way of going, what are you doing here, hero of the lunar surface? Well, don't you think that's a little steep? Really, nowadays everyone starts investing with properties like these. But for me, it's not an investment. Oh, sorry, you're from Earth, so this might sound strange. But houses on the lunar surface are considered investments, not debts. If you buy one, the price will always go up. It's way more efficient than the stock market, which is already too expensive. She was saying this to the face of the investment specialist who brought down Avalon. Was it a bad joke, or... I was still confused and repeated what I said before. But I have no job and no assets. No need to worry, it's quite common for clients in your condition to own 3 properties. The loans our company offers are 100% secure. She tapped on the computer again and summoned a pamphlet onto the screen. I was proud of myself for not falling off my chair. The receptionist was all smiles. If this was a setup, every household on the lunar surface would be seeing my face on a candid camera show in a few days' time. So... yeah, unfortunately I can't see the context for these, but oh well. The name of this loan is formed by the first 5 letters of 5 words. I read the words written there out loud like a fool. No income, no job, an asset. So, before we go forward, let's pull this. Why? Why ninja? This ninja loan exists. Even if you have no income, no jobs, or assets, you're fine. This loan is inspired by the famous ninja of Earth who are said to have been from Japan, a country of mystery and culture. And they can transform into anything by putting leaves on their heads. Whoosh. And the loser, burdened on society, suddenly becomes a real millionaire. What do you think? We can make the contract with just your ID, your ticket, an ID, and a signature. I looked back at her, gazing at the color deep in her eyes. I had seen through many CEOs and CFOs who cooked their financial statements, cheated the accounting audits, or got away with lying to everyone, including their clients or business partners. Therefore, I was sure of it. She did not doubt her own words. She didn't think it was strange, not in the slightest. The two people next to me had finished signing their contract and were shaking hands with the receptionist. They did not look that well dressed. Their smiles were a little frozen, perhaps because they didn't really believe they could seal a deal here. Was it because they were good citizens of Earth? Did 6 times more gravity make you 6 times more naive? Who was I then? The answer to this question was clear. I was an investor. The best investor of the lunar surface. I had an eye for this and was capable of judgment. So I could say it for sure. This was completely insane. It was complete nonsense. So, what is your decision? By the time you get to Earth, you will probably have gained enough money to cover the interest and the administrative fees. I did not let her finish and asked, I have a quick question. Yes? How many contracts do you conclude each day? Well, that would be between 10 and 15 at most. She was wincing, as if wondering why I'd asked her this out of nowhere, but the fact she gave me an answer showed that she hadn't thought this through. And they were letting someone like her, who probably thought of this kind as this of some kind of student job, conduct audits for loans. Mortgage loans for people who had no income, no job, and no assets. Thank you. I said this as I rose from my chair. Hey, where are you going? Hearing her voice following me, I quickened my pace. I grabbed my tablet, but before dialing a number, I gathered my thoughts. What I felt inside was similar to an intense pain burning my heart. Maybe Dr. Wallace is right. He was certainly not looking at barren wastelands. Blood pumped to the tip of my fingers, and I could actually feel my pulse in them. The feeling that something was off that I got when I visited credit card loan companies or even car dealers was also dispelled. Now I knew where it came from. And the words Dr. Wallace said at Club 25, even if you cannot doubt their math, you can still question their major premise. He really was the king of pessimism. Yet he was always screaming this possibility out loud. There were always those who wanted to go left when everyone else went right. This was why Dr. Wallace, one of the die-hard short sellers on the surface, got this seemingly mocking nickname. Dr. Wallace was not just an obsessed pessimist. He was a veteran master of the market with a deep knowledge of which numbers to look at and which matters to take into account. It was difficult to believe that he acted on the wrong impression. I looked at the airport clock, took a deep breath, and gathered my thoughts. Maybe I was wrong about this. Maybe I was overthinking it. Another possibility was that the progress of mathematical science had gone so fast that I could not follow it. However, not thinking at all was also not an option. I called Marco. Yes, Hal? What is it? Don't tell me you forgot something after all. I started feeling dizzy. It was the same bewitching excitation I felt when I made investments. Marco, I need to ask for a favor. Yes? I said this, looking around the earthbound gate. It was overflowing with noisy, high-spirited people, all talking about making a quick buck and taking extravagant trips. Could you prepare the following statistics and send them to me as fast as possible? What? You filled your bag with so many files to read in the orbital elevator and you still need more? Really, you're such... Fine, I'm listening. We have wage statistics and the data on profit increases of the listed companies, right? Well, and also the data on the current account balances of the lunar surface. The current account balances? You mean you want the capital movements between Earth and the lunar surface? You want to start foreign exchanges, or what? Yeah, you could say that. I gave a vague answer, then added. Also, and this is important, next I need you to gather data on the private companies. Dan's place must have them. I don't care about the expenses. This is an investment investigation. Really? Why? I took a deep breath before replying. It's data on the number of real estate properties and their prices. The older it is, the better. Also, I also want the Earth data. America, Japan, it would be nice to have England too. What? Why would you want that? It was like I could see the question marks in Marco's head. It's real estate, so it must be related to ABS, but isn't that matter closed? And even if that is the case, what does he need the statistics for? You could feel how much he wanted to ask that. I did not explain thoroughly. I was afraid my cognitive bias would soon switch off as this possibility came out of my mouth. What I was doubting was effectively the CDO, as well as the ABS upon which it was based. However, it was a little too much for me to actually question the evolution, the reliability, or the precision of the numbers used to create bonds in those large-scale loan-making schemes. I could barely pronounce Gaussian coupon. However, I was able to question their major premise. In order to function, something as complex and involving as much money as ABS needed just one thing. I only have 20 minutes before boarding. Gather the data I asked for and send it to me. I will wait as long as possible. I especially need the data on real estate prices and the current account balance of the lunar surface. Understood? Please. By the way, Hal. I did not let him finish and cut the call. Marco was really competent after all, so he always carried out instructions promptly regardless of any doubts he might have. I heaved a sigh of relief after finishing the call. I felt like I'd tricked him with a bunch of huge lies. But I turned my gaze further down the hallway toward the new age developments booth where I had a chat earlier. Other clients had already filled my seat and they were listening intently. Various people were waiting in line, guys who really looked like they wanted to invest the little money they gained on the lunar surface while they were at it, or others who seemed to be genuinely in the situation I described on the cuff. You did not need to have an eye for investment there. All you needed was the courage to sign a loan. That was all. The whole time I was waiting for the data from Marco, I stayed still thinking. I was questioning everything, my misunderstandings, mistakes, wrong impressions, even my unconscious desire for everything to go well. But the data would correct my uncertain and probably wrong impressions or my premature judgment. Having the plain facts right in front of me would clarify things that could very well remain concealed even with this data. That was how, until now, I've been able to make non-negligible profits with my investments on the stock market. Of course, those who master the numbers had already gotten into a rocket and flown far away, and the donkeys would never be able to catch them. It wasn't like the donkeys couldn't take the same route, though, and the world was full of unimaginable traps. Monsters were lurking even in the market. Oh. I received a message on my tablet. Marco had sent the details I asked for. I still had another 6 minutes before boarding. Even if most of the data could be found online, the fact that he was able to gather in such a short time was proof of his information gathering skills. At least that was what I thought before opening the email. Here's your data. Don't be surprised if it looks familiar. It was on the doctor's computer. It seems the housing data was order-made, and it appears that the statistics on the evolutions of prices are not public. I borrowed them from Maria. You can pay me later. That was his message. It gave me a strange feeling, both of surprise and of composure born from the same kind of confidence. I sent a reply saying I'd added to his salary. Then I verified the data and saw that it contained everything I wanted. It was almost scary. I would have some quiet time during the next 2 weeks, and no one would be around to bother me. I should have time to examine it thoroughly. I also had the feeling I wouldn't have any other opportunity to grapple with this data. It was a seemingly insane plan, after all, so I was sure I'd get drawn into it the more I worked on it. I knew that if I told anyone about it, they would laugh right in my face. Judged from the fact that the data I wanted was exactly the same as the data Wallace gathered, there was a high probability that the Gaussian investment would prevent any further progress in that direction. But I still wanted to see this for myself. The announcement to begin boarding for the orbital elevator to Earth resounded in the hall. I walked towards the boarding gate with the other passengers. This situation. People had a tendency to move as one in the same direction. and sometimes, as Sasha said, they overdid it. I briefly turned back. In the distance, I could see the booth selling those silly ninja loans or whatever. They were lending money even to those who were crawling at the bottom of our competitive society. You could effectively call that a social contribution. Yes, you could, but as Wallace aptly put it, boats did not make money, and French fries were nothing more than French fries after all. I murmured a word to myself that I had not said in many years. Bubble. The lunar surface might well have been in a real estate bubble. The concept was very straightforward. How was the price of a given thing decided? The classical explanation was by supply and demand. However, that alone couldn't explain the price itself. That was because prices need to be expressed through some sort of monetary value. Therefore, economists thought out an extreme situation to use as an example. Let's consider an island where there was 1 fish and 100 mules. Mr. A had 1 fish. Mr. B had 100 mules. Since Mr. B was on the verge of starvation, he used the 100 mules in his possession to buy fish from Mr. A. From that, we could determine the price of a fish to be 100 mules. That's what's explained right there. So what if Mr. A had 2 fish? Since Mr. B only had 100 mules, regardless of how many fish you tried to sell him, by taking advantage of his hunger, you would only be able to get 100 mules out of him. In other words, the value of 1 fish ended up being 50 mules. Conversely, what if Mr. B had 200 mules to spend on 1 fish? Following the same logic, you can understand that the price of fish was determined by the respective amounts of fish and money existing on the island. This was the practical application of that theory. In that spaceport, someone had tried to sell me some loans, and they'd done so despite me telling them I had no income, no job, and no resources. In short, I was the equivalent of the Mr. B in the island story, except I had no money. One of the prerequisites for raising the price due to demand was missing. So, if you want to look over this, you can pause it right here. This is just various types of division. 2 fish means the fish are worth 50 each, 2 fish means each fish is worth 50. If there's 4, they're worth 25. 10, they're worth 10. And then if the money increases, this value of the fish goes up. So it becomes 200, then 400, then 1,000. The price of something could only rise because of demand if there was money to buy said thing, which really shook up what was meant to be one of the main premises on the lunar surface. The current state of the real estate market on the lunar surface could definitely be explained that way. The surface area on the lunar surface was limited, and migrants wouldn't stop coming. According to the connection between supply and demand, since the population kept growing, the price of real estate would definitely not decline. That might be the case. But in order for the increase in real estate value to happen, those who arrived on the moon had to buy this real estate. That was one of the reasons why we did things like the Housing Support Project. After all, there hadn't been people with nowhere to go since they couldn't keep up with the price of real estate. To apply this to the previous example, even if the number of fish on the island was indeed limited, regardless of how many Mr. B ninjas showed up, the price of fish wouldn't rise. It was because they had no money. The only way for them to buy some fish was to take out a loan, which brought me to the current account balance on the lunar surface. This was a recap of the amounts of money going in and out of there. It showed the difference between the ideas and goods produced on the lunar surface as well as the money invested in the lunar surface's properties, and on the other hand, the money leaving the lunar surface. Why do they call it the moon surface here instead of lunar? I don't know. Like in the example of the island, the price of the real estate on the lunar surface couldn't continue to rise just by adding people on the lunar surface. Money needed to come in as well. Rather, even if people didn't come, as long as money did, the prices would rise. Making people come might just be an excuse to bring money in. And just like that, the current account balance was in the black thanks to incredible growth. And over overwhelming amount of funds was streaming into the lunar surface. I took a deep breath. The worst thing to do when trying to prove a hypothesis was to hunt for evidence supporting your own hypothesis. People tended to have a confirmation bias, that is, they tended to only look for proof that confirmed their own ideas. Therefore, what you actually needed to look for were facts that contradicted your hypothesis. The first thing to consider was the increased rate of wages. Perhaps things like the ninja loans were just extreme cases, and the steep price of real estate was overall due to people managing to buy a property thanks to successive salary raises. I considered this, but the instant I made a graph using the data on wages provided by a data research company specialized in the business field, I couldn't help but laugh scornfully. I didn't even need to compare it to the price increase of real estate. As always for most people, buying property on the lunar surface was seemingly impossible, even if they worked for their entire lives. Then what about the growth of companies' earnings? Companies often invested their excess earning in real estate. I tried plotting the growth rate of the earnings of all the listed companies on the market, but aside from a few amazing companies, the overall rate was high, but not out of the ordinary. Rather, I knew for certain that there were countless companies who increased their earnings by relying on the profits made from investing in real estate, which meant that, as I thought, the growth of the market price of real estate was faster than its actual economic growth. However, if only rich people moved to the lunar surface, it would be possible for the market price of real estate to grow at a faster rate than the economy itself. I can think of countless possibilities, but I couldn't make up my mind as to whether the data aggregated in front of me supported my own hypothesis, or was just something that I was interpreting in the way that was most convenient to me. At any rate, it was nearly impossible to determine the real value of an investment in the first place. After all, trades were made by agreeing on prices, and not on the value of what was traded. Everyone had their own values, and as such, the word value held a deep meaning. And that's because price was visible while value wasn't. Well, you could tell that a bubble was in a situation where there was a discrepancy between the price of something and its real value. Since that real value wasn't something that could be seen, there was no way to tell how big that discrepancy actually was. On one hand, most economists argue that the actual value was close to the price resulting from lots of people trading. But in the end, this was just an average of the speculation of lots of people, and that speculation changed depending on the circumstances. After all, even dictatorships were born legally out of democracies that were supposed to govern fairly while taking into account everyone's opinions. So basically, people like us who didn't know the real value of things could only realize they were in a bubble after it already burst. If only I had some sort of reference point. As I was pondering that, the realization suddenly hit me. If prices differing greatly from the actual demand constitute a bubble, then how about looking at the prices based on the actual demand for real estate? As for what constituted that actual demand, it wasn't the trading price of real estate, but its rental value. Real estate companies were originally supposed to anticipate the future earnings of people taking out loans. I gathered some data about real estate, then tried to calculate real estate earnings out of the market price for rent. After doing so, I was taken aback by the figure I had obtained. The actual interests are around 1.5%? It was the same as the one for the duplex houses situated in the central part of Newton City. Purchasing one required an awful lot of money, but even renting one was absurdly expensive. Nonetheless, when you calculate its actual interest over a year, it was 1.5%. 1.5%. I put a hand over my mouth. That's absurd. Even American government bonds are higher. I tried to calculate the actual interest of other properties using their market price, along with the market price for their rent. Most of them were around 2%, with only very few over 2.5%, and quite a lot were in the vicinity of 1%. In a word, this meant that if you bought a property in order to earn income by renting it, it would take you over 50 years to recover your initial investment. The house would definitely deteriorate over time, repairs would become necessary, it wasn't something meant to last forever. So if, for example, they managed not to spend any money on repairs and to always have a tenant, when it came time to rebuild the whole thing 40 years down the line, that investment would turn into 10 years worth of deficit. overall, there were even weirder things to think about. What justified an investment with returns even lower than the interests of a virtually no-risk investment like government bonds issued by a developed country? According to the unwritten rule of risk and return, that can only mean that nowadays investing in the real estate had become safer than investing in government bonds. Was that a joke? I made some calculations using the data that Marco had gathered for me. Basically, at any given time there was at least one real estate bubble occurring somewhere in the world. I then shuddered at the figures in front of me. Regardless of how intense the bubble was in a country, the interest rate never went over 3%, and once the bubble had burst, that rate generally returned to being somewhere between 5 to 7%. That was because while the price of real estate went down, rents didn't see any dramatic decline. Incidentally, if rents were to stay constant, the interest rate of real estate would be between 3 and 7%, and the price of real estate would be nearly halved, before experiencing a decline towards an even lower price. If a 10 million wool building could be rented at 300,000 wools, that meant an estimated 3% interest rate. But if the property value went down to 4 million wools, then that 300,000 wool rent meant 7.5% interest rate. When a bubble burst, a price falling from 10 million wools to 4 million wools is a pretty run-of-the-mill depreciation rate. However, since the lunar surface was also a special case on that matter, there was still a possibility that the interest rate of real estate would be low. As I pondered this while looking at the past data, I shivered. Until 10 years ago or so, the real estate's interest rate on the lunar surface was around 5%. Moreover, the rental market value had barely changed. What had changed was the price of real estate itself. The prices determined by people actually paying money to live in these properties had barely seen any change, and that data was backed by the statistics for wages. And this really is. My eyes were focused on the figures lined up in front of me as I grumbled. The current interest rate of real estate on the lunar surface was at a miraculous 2%. So, if prices returned to what they were like before the bubble burst 10 years ago, when the interest rate was at 5%, the depreciation rate would range between 50 or 70%, or even more. What would happen if, like on Earth, the interest rate were to rise to 7%, or even 10%? The price of real estate would fall like a flattened house. In that situation, that meant that if you bought a property, you would end up with an extra charge of at least 200 or 300% compared to what you would have paid for if you decided to rent it or to occupy it. But that money, where's it coming from? Of course, these were loans, and the people offering them weren't people from the lunar surface. That's right. Grace had talked about that. This is the financial engine she told me about. What's making waves on the lunar surface by being channeled through ABS and CDO is money coming from Earth. It was all connected to ABS and CDO. Wasn't that a sign that I could no longer ignore them? Was I going to doubt them again? Furthermore, by coming here, I had finally found the solution to what had been bothering me. It was the uneasiness that I had felt every time I heard about the different kinds of loan. It was what had been summed up as, even if the person who took out this loan encounters difficulties, everything is fine since the price of real estate is always on the rise anyway. To me, it felt like some weird configuration as an Ouroboros swallowing its own tail. Credit card loans, car loans, mortgages, they all relied on the profits made from the increase in value of real estate. But this rise in the prices of real estate depended on the market price for real estate doing well. If it did well on the market, investors would invest in it. If investors put money in it, the market price would rise. In that case, what would happen if the real estate market, the foundation for this whole thing, declined? What would they do if the price of real estate slumped? What would happen to those who had taken out a ninja loan or something similar, expecting an increase in value? Since they absolutely wouldn't be able to repay either the interest or the loan, they would definitely try to sell their property. When people planning to do that all start lining up, then didn't that mean they were all going bankrupt in an instant? Saying that the risks were dispersed, wasn't that just a downright lie? You've got to be kidding me. As I whispered this in utter shock, I frowned while trying to repress something close to nausea. That was the moment when the synapses in my brain decided to conjure up a memory. My mind was yelling at me to think back to the portfolio insurance, a risk-hedging scheme created during the good old days. There were lifeboats to be found there, but if everyone boarded them, they would sink, with no exceptions. Having reached that point in my reasoning, I closed my eyes. It felt like I'd been released from all the G-forces weighing me down all at once. I felt like I finally understood where I was standing in all this. Then, what would I see from there if I opened my eyes? What in the world had Dr. Wallace seen from there? There's no mistaking it. I said in a whisper. This was the destruction of the world. Dr. Wallace was betting on the destruction of the world. He was betting on the disappearance of ABS. But in that case, short-selling ABS and CDO made no sense. There was a way to make big bets even with limited funds, a way to obtain enormous amounts of money. That was protection. The insurance contract that compensated the losses of the bonds, which is the reason ABS was said to be alchemy. How much was at stake? The riskiest junior claims had an insurance fee of 0.8%. So basically this meant that with a measly 80,000 moles, 10 million moles worth of junior claims would be fully compensated if anything happened. Fully compensated. If the junior claims were to go bankrupt, you could get a 10 million mole return from an 80,000 mole fee. The profit rate would indeed be 125 times the original sum, or to put it in an easier to understand percentage, it would be 12,500%. That kind of figure was so ridiculous it sounded like some kind of childish prank. It coincided with the returns above 10,000% that Dr. Wallace had been shying about when he came to our office. What was making me shiver actually wasn't the return rate in itself. As a matter of fact, when it came to investing, the return rate itself wasn't truly important. Because even if the return rate was important, if you could only bet a small amount of money, it was pointless. While it was indeed amazing to make 100,000 moles with a 10,000% return from 100 moles, if you could get a 0.1% return from 10 billion moles, you would get 10 million moles in return, which was ultimately a higher return. However, for this particular case, there was no need for such concerns. What was the scale of the marketplace? Chris had told me about that with a proud look on her rounded face. The sales were around several billion moles monthly. If the market were to collapse, this meant that this amount of money would pile up every month as a reward. I was quivering on my chair. I might have even wet my pants a little. However, who in the world would have been able to laugh at this? After all, if Chris had told me the truth, the anticipated returns for this bet would amount to 1.8 trillion moles. So I was actually looking to see if his tie was flung over his shoulder, to be honest, since that was all the time in the second game. I stood up from my chair, and then looked out the window. From the room I'd been holed up in over the last 10 days, I could see Earth, which was now close enough that I could no longer see it in its entirety. So this is actually a little interesting, as I've been trying to figure out how the orbital elevator worked after talking about the whole meteor impact thing in the second game. And while this may seem like a bit of a tangent, I concluded that it has to be some sort of shuttle service. So it's possible the elevator has two forms. There could actually be like a tower that's going to take them partway up into the air while itself serving as like a slingshot of sorts. The way I kind of imagine it working would be like an electromagnetic pulse, similar to how a railgun works, and you just launch it into the air with enough velocity to escape gravity. And then the other possibility is that the elevator itself could actually be something horizontal that's still going to propel something at that speed. It's just they'd have to generate more velocity in order to escape Earth's gravity. And from there have to be like some sort of intermediate station, like a satellite or something between Earth and the Moon to serve as like a halfway point, possibly. like, it depends on what form the actual elevator on Earth is, and from there the people have to get shuttled out further. Because they talked about before how there's people who get sick in the elevator, and the fact of the matter is, based on how I've described it, they may actually be moving at such forces that a person will have to wear a protective suit in order to not die. And they will risk all sorts of motion sickness, or even risking losing consciousness as a result of this. It's kind of similar to the giant centrifuge thing where pilots are exposed to G-forces to try to acclimate them or find their limits or stuff like that. I don't exactly know how those work specifically, but it's very similar in terms of thinking. So I was kind of hoping this would actually tell us how it worked in detail, but the whole 10-day thing doesn't exactly make a lot of sense to me. Like, I'm trying to remember how long it actually took the Apollo astronauts to go from Earth to Moon, and they weren't landing on it, they just went around it, basically, using its own gravity to accelerate them further. Because for this one, they may still want to use a gravitational slingshot to accelerate themselves away from the Moon. That in itself will draw out the time a little bit. And, like, ultimately, it's probably going to be faster than just trying to take a straight shot. It really depends on the efficiency of engines at this point, how much force they can get per fuel used, and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe the 10-day wait actually isn't as extreme as I was thinking. Well, let's just move back and forth with the game. This could only be some sort of sign. As I was pondering about the secrets of this world I discovered, I was fascinated by just how blue the giant Earth was before me. Are you crazy? After an incredibly long pause, the answer sounded from my tablet. Even given lag because of my physical distance from the lunar surface, it was a heck of a long pause. Judging from his tone, he was probably flabbergasted. Betting on the collapse of ABS? But we gathered the data, and the logic doesn't seem so bad. I don't think so. First of all, Hal, you're misunderstanding something about that extreme version of the quantity theory of money. B might be a ninja or something, but this logic where the more fish there are, the more value goes up because everyone wants some, but the price doesn't go up because they don't have money. It's a deception. It's like an exception under extreme circumstances. Look at reality. There will always be someone to pay for something that has value. After all, they have money. Look at Earth, or at the slightly well-off people on the lunar surface. They won't care about a debt or anything. After saying his piece, Marco shut up. I doubted the silence was lag, so much as him waiting to hear how I'd answer. So, you think that because I'm using the doctor's data, I'm also falling victim to his unhealthy pessimism? I do think so. I heaved a small sigh at Marco's short answer. I didn't even expect Marco to be so clearly opposed to this. I couldn't wait for the orbital elevator to reach Earth's orbital base. When it decelerated and we reached transmission range, I called him, but I ended up having the wind taken out of my sails. But I've seen it at the airport. This foolishness of a loan is rampant, and the real estate interest yields are below 2%. There is no precedent for that, even on Earth. How can you not call this a bubble? Hal, you should know this, right? A bubble is something that you can't figure out while you're in the middle of it. You understand why Dr. Wallace was nicknamed the King of Pessimism, right? I'm telling you, the index to figure it out was the rental market value. A voice over the PA system announced that the orbital elevator reaches destination in 15 minutes. Hal, please calm down and collect yourself. I am calm. Do you know that you can't create a system capable of finding its bugs by itself? A famous logic problem. However, just like you couldn't trisect an angle with just a ruler and compass, it had been demonstrated that it was logically impossible. So I'm trying to think of why wouldn't you actually be able to do this exactly? That I'm kind of curious about. When you had a robot saying, "I am not broken," he was usually broken. It was the same thing. When someone was adamant about something that they had no way of knowing, usually they had some sort of problem. What do you want me to say, then? That you don't have a cool head on your shoulders, that you wanted the opinion of a third party. As I sighed, Marco directed these words at me. I don't want to deny your point without listening, you know. This is an opportunity, an unbelievable opportunity. I lowered my voice unconsciously because that was just how big of an opportunity it was. A gamble where you'd make billions of bulls worth of chips every month. That didn't exist anywhere in this world. Only exchange trade might qualify, but unfortunately my range of price fluctuation was limited. A trade on a scale that would even dwarf bets involving unbelievable amounts of money, with price fluctuations going up several times, several tens, or even several hundreds. There was no such investment on the lunar surface. It most certainly had never existed in this world. Or do you oppose this because Dr. Wallace had heavy losses? Or that's Hal saying that. The losses are not the problem. Besides, if I was better at investment than you, I'd run my own fund. What is it then? Marco answered my question almost immediately. I'm talking about how to explain this to our backers. Do you want me to explain them that we're going to bet money on the lunar surface real estate collapsing? He was collected, yet his tone was jeering. They'll wonder if you've gone mad. The lunar surface real estate market has never fallen, even once. At times it did reach a plateau. Relatively long plateaus have occurred 3 times, but it has always increased. It's no exaggeration to say it's been booming. So why can you say that the plateau this time, and only this time, will not skyrocket again and plummet? You just have to look at the current account balances. It's clear the lunar surface real estate market's place has been supported by influx of capitals from Earth. Even when you look at the incredibly low interest yield of the rental market, the rise in price is not linked to actual demand. It's clearly speculation. Plus, you can see in recent data that the pace of investments from Earth has slightly slowed down. I guess the people on the front lines have started noticing that something was off. That's why. And how many people would be willing to bet their money on this explanation? Even with the lag, he interrupted me as I was speaking. That probably meant he didn't plan on listening to the whole explanation. What? Hell. Do you think the people entrusting you with their money wants it in the hands of someone who invests like he would jump at the first bet he sees? I was at a loss for words. Between the signal's round trip and the silence, it must have taken 10 long seconds before Marco continued speaking. When we invested in ABS, my impression was that it was the result of careful deliberation. Customers knowledgeable about this field were already aware of ABS for a while, but even so, they did not contact us to mention it that didn't fit your stance. But it's different this time. You're completely changing your opinion. Even though you invested in it after due consideration, you are now expecting it to collapse. How do you plan on explaining this? I am a lesser investor than you, Hal, but I deal with our backers more often than you do. I am confident that I know better than you what they expect from you, Hal. That's my conviction, and it's consistent. That was the foundation behind Marco's unwavering words, and I had no answer to give. I thought you weren't the type to go wandering without knowing what you were doing. But attachment kills people. In investment, the one thing you're never supposed to do is persist in your errors. But there's also the possibility that your thinking right now is mistaken, and then the best thing to do would be to sell our ABS and observe. That way we have no risks. Besides, your thinking has also been denied by way smarter people than me. Can't you see? Who? The market. Since the market has already proven that Dr. Wallace is wrong, you don't exactly have an edge. Heavy losses due to large-scale negative carry trades. If Wallace's investment was done against ABS's protection, that meant that every once in a while he would have to bleed out the insurance money. Plus, the loss of value of the insurance must have also been felt. Hal, I get it. ABS's arrival on the market has shaken your convictions. I guess it would feel good to bet on it collapsing. It's quite vexing for me, too. Though it must be an inferiority complex for someone who's not skilled at math. please remember the relation between risk and return. Weren't you more knowledgeable about this than anyone else? Marco was speaking slowly, one word at a time, just like Risa did when admonishing someone. In order to achieve 12,500% of profits, what kind of risk must you take? It was at this point that I finally understood what Marco was saying. The simple relation between risk and returns. If returns were big, then of course the risks must also be big. He determined that no one on the market, no, in the world, would win a bet on which you could expect a 125-fold return. It was because people thought that ABS wouldn't collapse, that the real estate loans wouldn't collapse, that the insurance fees got cheaper, and that the returns got pulled upwards. And when it came to a 125-fold return, it was nearly as if the whole world was flat out saying it's not possible. In the end, how sane would someone look betting money on this? Who'd trust their money with a guy like that? If mathematics were revered in the field of investment, it was because they utterly destroyed the savage notion of feeling based on years of experience. It was because you didn't need to rely on suspicious investment skills. Speaking mathematically, a bet with a 125-fold return should be in the realm of near impossibility. Hal, I get it that you have a rough time being outwitted by cows, getting fewer and fewer returns, and having your convictions shaken up by the arrival of ABS, but that's all the more reason for you to not fall into despair. No, I tried answering, but words failed me. Marco's statement about jumping at the first bet he sees stabbed deep into my heart. Schweitzer investment is in the top 15% of the sector, you know. Also, the housing project is going steady. It's not that bad. It's not bad at all. It's just that the mood of the market is crazy. I think you should take a few steps away from the market and enlarge your field of view. But I noticed how off it was because I enlarged my field of view of the market. No, being in an environment so crazy that you could only analyze it from a distance, that was exactly what had me thinking that we were dealing with a bubble. That was what I wanted to claim. My thoughts made my words stick in my throat. Marco's words hit home, way too hard. If you can't give up, then do it on your own pocket money. It's not my business what you do on your time. That's above my pay grade anyway. I won't tell you that your eating habits negatively affect your investment performance, and I won't give you statistics on how getting married helps you live longer, so you need to let go of what happened 8 years ago and move on. He said it so bluntly I couldn't even get angry or feel shaken at all. But no matter what, I can't approve these investments as the fund. I'll call on Risa to stop me if I have to. It's true that if the returns materialized it would be incredible, but that's because the chance of success is infinitesimally small. Stay on target. You stand to lose way too much. Isn't that what you always said, Hal? That one should never ever risk a bet where they stand to lose everything? All I could see in my mind was a table piled to overflowing with chips. In excitement from being nearly convinced of my victory. With fresh eyes looking at me from outside, all they would probably see was merely a gambler convinced that he would win this time for sure. So please forget about investing and take it easy. Yeah. Well then. As the communication was cut, I was brought back to reality all of a sudden. It was incredibly embarrassing. I had been extremely excited. I was so sure I had my hands on a map to an as-yet undiscovered treasure island. I'd get my hands on incredible wealth, so much wealth I could raise the dead. I'd be able to reach my dreams, and I would be able to prove that my unwritten rule in investment wasn't wrong. That excitement turned in one fell swoop into thorns that attacked me. Was I in turmoil over having my unwritten investment rule violated by ABS? Was I getting gloomy over the fact that I had started understanding less and less about the stock market that I was so used to? Was I feeling more pressure than I thought over my reducing returns? It was true that one could figure out their own bugs. I was feeling less and less confident in my own sanity, probably because the excitement was wearing off. With a thud, the whole room shook. The orbital elevator, guarded by mathematics, made it safely to its destination again today. So yeah, it looks like it's increasingly likely that the elevator's in the shape of a tower. That way it can actually catch stuff as it's re-entering and actually guide it in safely, I'm guessing. Once I was off the orbital elevator, I was forced to ride yet another long elevator. As it went forwards, the weightless state progressively faded. And that kind of confirms that it's a vertical tower. The orbital vase was divided into several layers made of concentric circles, using centrifugal force to allow for the experience of gravity. So if you don't actually know what this is talking about, you can simulate gravity by spinning stuff, and basically the centrifugal force will pull things to the edges of the circle. Like, if you want to actually see this yourself, you can put a bucket, put some water in it, you need a handle on this bucket, and then you want to swing it around at arm's length. And even though you will invert the bucket at times, how the water doesn't come out, that's because of the centrifugal force. And they're doing something similar here to simulate the gravity. As I could finally feel the weight of my body, I had arrived at the last stop of the elevator. After going through the entrance inspection and crossing the gate, I saw something that was identical to the departure gate of the lunar surface. For a moment, I thought I had been deceived, but the scenery outside of the window was different from that of the lunar surface. This giant blue sphere that looked like it was about to fall down was showing itself in all its glory, looking small, yet actually large. Of the people disembarking from the ramp, only the young ones were looking around open-mouthed. More than likely, they had all been born on the moon like me. However, as everyone separated into groups of 2 or 3, even the blueness of the earth was not enough to attract my attention, as I was still overwhelmed by Margot's warning. As I passed the district where, just like on the moon, shops sponsored by International Commerce Capital were lined up, I could also catch sight of the mortgage loan booth, starting with New Age Development's booth. It felt like here you could feel the rational influence of Earth. There were a lot of people glancing at the electronic bulletin boards displaying the market prices of properties. Most of them were looking simply out of curiosity. There were also a lot of people who were shaking their heads dejected. That was the reaction I expected. Those prices, even the concept of taking loans in this place, were weird, no matter how you thought about it. Of course, there was no one to receive customers and listen to their business, and it just felt like they were running an exhibit of aliens coming from the lunar surface. I thought that, but at the same time I wondered if my perception wasn't a bit biased. But even so, while these worries were looping in my head with no answer in sight, I checked into the hotel I had reserved from the lunar surface, one of those chain hotels you could find anywhere. Here it seemed like the gravity was already a bit stronger than the lunar surface. As I signed in according to Earth custom, my hand felt clumsy. Even a simple fountain pen felt strangely heavy. I might have been feeling emotionally beaten, but this boded nothing good for the future. Such thoughts crossed my mind as the person at the reception addressed me. "Mr. Kawa, we have received a message for you." "What message?" "Any contact outside of our defined check-ins meant trouble." This was a reaction ingrained in me from managing an investment fund, but as I actually received the electronic data, I saw this was an email with a signature written in familiar handwriting. From Eleanor. I instinctively raised my voice and the reception noticed it. "Thank you." Saying this, I headed towards my room with my bag and tablet open. I walked across the lively coffee lounge and opened the message on my tablet. "Hello. Since you received this message after arriving at the base, I suppose this must mean the very act of signing using a fountain pen has you in despair over how this bodes nothing good for the future." She's seen right through me, huh? I laughed awkwardly and read the rest of the message. "With that in mind, since you are coming over..." It was a big hotel, but not a high-class one, so it was not like there was someone standing by the elevator to press the button for me. I lifted my gaze from my tablet and extended my hand in order to press the button. But at that instant, an agile hand reached from the side and pressed the button in front of me. "Sorry." Uttering this simple word, I returned my glance to my tablet and felt something was off. What was it? And I resumed reading the message. "I thought I would go to space too. It has been a while after all." Huh. "Let us meet at the hotel. Eleanor." And there you go. You get to see how she's changed over the course of the 4 years. Huh? Someone read the last line out loud for me, prompting me to raise my head in surprise. Before me stood Eleanor, looking far more composed than 4 years ago.